Hello, everyone. Welcome to Bald Guy Money. I am Bald Guy, and 2 days ago, Donald Trump said he was interested in creating a U.S. sovereign wealth fund. And although it's too early to speculate on what shape that may end up taking, it certainly lends a lot of credibility to what I was talking about with Josh Fair, the founder and president of the Scottsdale Mint, in the video I shared with you all on Sunday, where he suggested that the U.S. government may be participating in repatriation of gold by getting any gold it holds in foreign vaults back in the country as they scramble to offset challenges to the US dollar posed by BRICS countries. Now, this movement of precious metals from one place to another that is happening around the world right now has put short sellers, so people betting against the prices of precious metals, at major risk and is driving the prices of both gold and silver up, resulting in gold and silver having almost double the return versus the S&P 500 over the last 12 months, as the major stock index has basically moved sideways since hitting 6,000 for the first time on November 11th, 2024. Now, I am not against stocks, and I am not for measuring asset prices over arbitrary periods of time, but I do think we are seeing a critical shift in the markets right now, one that is highlighted by something I told you all to look out for in past videos, that being gold and silver capturing a larger share of value of the top 10 global investable assets when measured by total market cap, which, as you can see here, gold and silver are now at a combined 52% of the value of the top 10 investable assets, meaning all the gold and silver in the world could buy these companies as well as all the Bitcoin in the world with change to spare, and I expect this number to grow over the coming months. Now, this trend towards precious metals is not something that high net worth individuals are ignoring. In fact, according to State Street, the number of high net worth people invested in gold nearly doubled in the United States from 2023 to 2024, and I suspect that number continues to grow in 2025, while low net worth individuals unfortunately are selling their gold and silver, thinking this is as good as things are going to get. So to put things into perspective for all of my viewers, I sat down with business mogul Eric Roach, the man who invented internet stock trading in the early 90s. He is also the founder of Summit Metals, so now you know who the man behind the curtain is. And we discussed while I was in Berlin last week why gold and silver are still so important in a world that is increasingly digital. We discussed why someone with his background in stocks, banking, and tech is betting big on precious metals right now. I asked him what advice he has to share for people who are getting into precious metals. I asked him which metal he expects to perform better over the next 2 years, gold or silver, and we concluded the discussion by covering the topic of fractional gold and what role it may play in the future. Now, just before we dive in, please remember to check out www.summitmetals.com if you want to buy gold and silver at a great price from a dealer you can trust. And now, without any further ado, here is my chat with Eric Roach, the man who invented internet stock trading. Hey everybody, it's Bald Guy here, and I am in Germany at the World Money Fair, and I'm joined by Eric Roach. And you might not know Eric, but Eric is the founder of Summit Metals. He's the sponsor of Bald Guy Money, and he's the reason that I'm able to come to places like this and deliver great content like this. So Eric, how are you today?
I'm doing well, thank you. Super excited to be here, yeah.
Well, that's great. Well, I've prepared a bunch of questions for you, and, because I want the viewers really to understand your background, because, a lot of viewers, they're always skeptical about sponsors. They call some of, YouTubers like me pushers, and they really, I don't think, understand the ideas behind this, why we do this, and why we're delivering this kind of content and this message to people, really around the whole world. So the first question I want to ask you, Eric, and for those of you, you're really going to get a little bit of a lesson into who Eric is, because he's really somebody important. So you are known both on Wall Street and Silicon Valley. Eric is the guy who innovated internet stock trading. So if you've ever traded stocks on the internet, Eric is the guy who innovated that. And, that really gives you a special place in financial history, in my opinion. Yeah. So, you have these connections to Wall Street, you have the connections to Silicon Valley. What the heck are you doing in analog gold and silver? What is it about gold and silver? Shouldn't you be in tech stocks? Shouldn't you be on, Wall Street banking stocks, JP Morgan, Nvidia, all this stuff? Why are you in old school gold and silver?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I do have a lot of experience in those other markets, but I think what really drove me to these markets was realizing that there's kind of a hole. You know, when you see what's happening in the economy, when you see how the dollar's being degraded day in and day out, precious metals serve a very important purpose. Very low percentage of our population even owns precious metals. If you go into more sophisticated analysis like Sharp ratios and things like that, and you really measure a portfolio against its performance over time, in every case, having precious metals as part of that portfolio is super important. It really stops the dramatic declines when market crashes and things like that, which in my opinion is inevitably going to happen sooner than later. We've been riding this wave for a long time. There's a lot of change happening in the world and in the economy. So to me, it just represented the right time to be there and to try to bring some innovation to this market, kind of like I did with the stock market, to me represented just a significant opportunity.
Okay, so that is actually a really great segue to the next question because we're in an increasingly digital world. And I mean, you know that because you basically brought stocks to the digital world. Now, what role do you think analog gold and silver have in an increasingly digital world?
I think they're very important. Even in a world that's digital, I guess when you look at precious metals, part of the issue is always counterparty risk, right? And so when you look at a security, you're effectively reliant on the brokerage firm, you're reliant on the banking system, you're relying even at its core on the internet, on base connectivity. When you own precious metals, you're reliant on nothing other than what you hold. So there are important characteristics of that, right? I mean, you do have to protect it. You do have to know how to safeguard your assets, in particular with physical assets in this regard. But at the same time, it just gives you an advantage in that you're off of what is commonly being used. You're in a slightly different place with in my opinion, an allocation of anywhere from typically 2 to 10% of your assets. You have it in this other place. And to me, that represents real diversification and ultimately stability in your family and in your financial life.
And when I think of counterparty risk, I think of it as trying to walk a tightrope where one side of the tightrope is secured to something like a pole or, whatever, a wall, but the other side is being held by somebody. And they can let go of that tightrope at any time they want with you crashing down to the ground, right?
Yes, exactly, yes.
Okay, so when we're talking about gold and silver now, we've got Summit Metals. It's really it's growing in popularity. I know a lot of the viewers out there are going to Summit Metals, they're purchasing from Summit Metals. When you're looking at, some of the data, what people are buying, do you think that there are some people out there that are making any mistakes? And what could you advise the people watching now to make sure they're not only getting the most bang for their buck, but that they're picking the best products to secure their financial future and ensure that, for example, they're mitigating that counterparty risk?
Well, I guess when you talk about a physical asset, to me, the number one is liquidity. Is this something that I can actually sell? And not just can I sell it in my neighborhood in Missouri or Montana or wherever I might live, can I sell it here in Berlin?
Yeah.
Can I sell it in Saudi Arabia? Can I sell it wherever in the world I may be? That's real liquidity. There is no asset that has liquidity like gold in that regard. And silver is a very close second. So to me, that's number one. When we look at our customers, one of the things we did when we started the company, there are literally thousands of products that exist in precious metals. And I'm of the opinion that most of them you should actually never own. And that's very contrary to many in my industry. And the reason for me is because, every asset has a spread, the buy price and the sell price. When you're dealing with bullion, you're typically dealing with the tightest spreads, which means your liquidity, again, to be able to buy and sell is very finite. It's very tight. You can sell for virtually what you buy for, right? When you talk about some of the really specialized products out there, I think they're great if you're like a collector. You find some cool coin with Star Wars on it or Ninja
It's
Turtles.
fun.
Whatever it is, it's fun. You put it on your desk. It's a paperweight. It's awesome in lots of ways like that. But to me, that's really not an investable asset.
And
Right?
and a lot of you don't realize, because sometimes you hammer me in the comments section. Oh, you're just trying to sell me something sponsored, sponsored, sponsored. Look, what I do is not possible without somebody like Eric. But what I want to emphasize here while I'm talking to him is that, the reason I decided to team up with Eric and decided to, not team up with other people is because this is kind of a no nonsense, no BS approach. And that's something that I really got from you because, I don't really think you're trying to right now make your fortune. I think, somebody like you've already made your fortune, and I really admire that and respect that. But I do kind of see this as, something that's really for the community, and I really appreciate that in our cooperation.
Yeah, let me tell you, when I started Lombard, which was the first company to trade stocks on the internet, my whole premise was how could I empower an individual to actually take control of their own financial life? That was the core mission of the entire company. And the mission for this company is very much the same. How can I empower people to actually take physical assets, understand why they need them, and then buy them in such a way, store them in such a way that they can be protected for their life, And I know you, Bald Guy. You get a lot of pressure from people because you can be said to be selling this or selling that. I will tell you the whole reason that you became a channel that we became very focused on is because of your content, and it's because you're very no nonsense. You actually are creating a channel that's all about actually helping people invest and do it the right way.
The right way, yeah, absolutely, and that is kind of a part of my mission. And I'm not going to try to sell anybody on buy these rare coins because they're going to go up the most,
or gold to 400,000 tomorrow.
Of
all
course,
the
no.
spam videos out there, right?
And I believe that we're both based in reality.
Yes.
Now, talking about gold maybe going to 400,000, I do want to ask you. We're seeing the metals bull market really start to ramp up right now. You have all of these, and maybe it's partly rumor driven, right? And we don't know. Maybe we'll give that back once these rumors are squashed about what's happening in the LBMA, et cetera, et cetera. But what I do want to ask you is over the next 2 years, I'm still extremely bullish on precious metals, gold and silver.
Yes.
I'm curious, when it comes to actual return, which of the two metals, gold or silver, do you see yielding the best return over the next 2 years and appreciating the most in price? Because this is a really hot topic in the community.
Is it? Yeah. It's one of those questions where if I really truly knew that answer,
You'd go all in.
Yeah, I'd go all in. But I think the very nature of what we're talking about is to not go all in, right?
Right.
It's to diversify your position. So I look at it like this. Central banks, I think, are going to continue to buy precious metals, in particular gold. And when you look at things like currency debasement, when you look at inflation, when you look at security around the world, this whole list of characteristics that are driving the gold market, I don't see those changing. And so I think gold is going to continue to perform really well. When you talk about silver, to me, now you're asking the question, is the economy going to really pop over the next 2 years? I think the economy is going to be in a tougher position, because I think interest rates are likely going to go up. I think things like
real
that
interest rates, right?
Real interest rates, and purchasing power again will go down as a result. But silver plays a role, right? Because it has volatility that does not exist in gold. So I always tell people it's almost like a scale of age. I feel like as you get older, the proportion of your gold holdings should increase relative to your silver.
Amen to that. I couldn't agree more.
Right. So I think that question is very individual. Right? So if I'm 25 years old, I might be heavily investing in silver right now because I can afford the volatility. Whereas you get older, gold starts to matter much, much more. But if I'm being completely just my own opinion, I value gold over anything.
And, that is something that I absolutely understand 100% because, when I was in my 20s and early 30s, I would stack gold to silver. I would stack 40 ounces of silver for every ounce of gold I stacked. And, you know, that was very much price driven. But now,
Right.
as I'm getting older, entering my 40s, everybody,
Yeah.
you know, I am bringing that ratio down. And right now, I'm really stacking 10 ounces of silver for every 1 ounce of gold, as I'm
Interesting.
trying to bring my ratio down
Right.
for my overall stack to about 20 to 1.
Right.
Now, we have been talking a little bit here in this fair about fractional gold because, of course, the price of gold is going away. And I know a lot of viewers who are watching this are in that position that I was in my 20s and early 30s where they simply see silver as a bigger value. But I think a lot of the things you're saying about the future of gold and the sustainability of the price development in gold driven by that central bank buying is extremely important. Now, there are a lot of people who poo-poo gold because they say, well, you know, I don't want to buy the fractional stuff because I'm paying too much of a premium, so I'll just buy the silver. What would you say to somebody like that?
Yeah, I think that's a mistake. You know, we, as we've been out in the fair, we talk to a lot of people, and I think that, you know, if you look at an appreciating market, which we're clearly in with gold right now, we talk about this concept, had you bought a 10th of gold, a 10th ounce of gold every month, rather than save your money and buy an ounce at the end of the year, you'd be far ahead financially than if you'd done it the other way. Secondly, are 10th ounce gold products selling at a higher premium, for example, than 1 ounce? The answer is yes. However, if you go to sell that asset, you'll also get paid more for your 10th ounce asset.
Absolutely.
So people seem to always forget the second part. They all go, the premium's high. Well, so is the sell premium. They always forget that part. Now, is buying an ounce more efficient? Yes, but not by near the ratio or the numbers that people think. I think it's far more important to be adding it consistently, dollar cost averaging your position so that you're avoiding the ups and downs. You don't become a slave to price. You're not trying to guess the market. I mean, one thing I saw in the stock market, there's an old thing where people would be trading options, for example, right? And they'd win, lose it all. I saw that so many times repeat itself with customers. I'd literally sometimes call them up and go, hey, have you thought about just trying this? You know, wouldn't do it. They're just like addicted to this kind of to the rush. And I think you see a kind of a mini version of that in these markets where people are all trying to time it, right? Oh, when it goes down, then I'm going to load up, or this or that. Well, you could say that back to $400 an ounce, right? And it just keeps pumping and pumping. And will it go down? Absolutely.
There will be moments.
There'll be opportunities. But guess what? If you're dollar cost averaging, you'll be buying more in those periods. And so it'll leverage itself out and you'll be in the best position you can be in.
It reminds me of that old Christmas claymation called Santa Claus is Coming to Town. I don't know if you've ever seen it. And there's this song in it, put one foot in front of the other. And I think that is
a good voice.
Thank you very much. So I think that is an absolutely fantastic example of, you know, that is how it works with precious metals. Just put one foot in front of the other,
Yes.
step by step, little bit by little bit, and you're going to ultimately, after 20, 30 years of doing it, which I've been in it for 16 years. How long have you been doing it?
Yeah, so I was, you know, because I come from the stock market side, the physical side is relatively new to me.
Oh.
Yeah, so I've been really in the position of collecting assets physically for about a year.
Oh.
Yeah, so I'm quite new at this in terms of that.
But I
know.
see that you're passionate enough to say, look, this is something important and I want to start a business around it.
That's correct. Well, I think too, I'm also looking at what's happening economically and realizing that although I was doing these things like many out there, there's a time when you need to adjust and make changes to be relevant to this market. And to me, that's where precious metals really came into play.
Well, everybody, you know, I think this has been a fantastic discussion. If you have any questions for Eric, I want you to leave them in the comments section right now, you know, considering his history, considering his experience, and I'm certain that we're going to do this again soon, and we'll get to those questions maybe in a future interview.
Yeah.
But Eric, I just want to thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you, man. Yeah.
But first of all, hold on.
Yeah.
For bringing me here to Germany.
Yeah.
And then also spending time with me, our cameraman, who's behind the camera, the man behind the plan.
That's right.
Who is my son, actually. And, you know, you've been so nice to me. You've been so nice to my son. Eric, thank you so much,
Thank you.
man.
You
It's a
bet.
pleasure to work with you.
It's been a pleasure for me. Thank
Cheers.
you. Cheers. Thank you.